let's talk about the upcoming banners. We have Kinich and Raiden, and the 4 stars are Thoma, Kujo, Sara, and Lynette. Oh boy. Let's see what the weapon banners like. Fang of the Mountain King, Engulfing Lightning, Lion's Roar, Stringless, Eye of Perception, Dragon's Bane, and Fav Greatsword. Oh boy. Hmm. Well, let's talk about the character banners first. I've already gone over the 5 stars.
Chaos underscore crack in
So,
this jaw
yeah,
some.
both of them
Yada
fairly
yada.
good. Unfortunately, Raiden has been left behind by quite a bit, so I wouldn't recommend most people wishing for her unless they just really like her and want to add her to her collection. But Kinich is pretty good as long as you have enough pyro to maintain burning. He's pretty solid. Pretty niche, but good damage dealer overall. But let's talk about the 4 stars on the banner because these are interesting. Lynette, everyone gets a copy for free. Her constellations don't really make her much better, so I would not wish on this banner to try and get Lynette copies. Kujo Sara is interesting. I don't think I would really use her pre C6 though. Her C4 makes her burst stronger, and you can build her as kind of like a nuke character, but that's not really worth it, especially with characters like Fischl and Beto and now Yansan and a lot of other Electro characters. I would not use Kujo Sara, despite the fact that she looks super cool. Yeah, so if you have her C6, the attack buff with the extra crit damage is quite nice, but that's really for like a hyper carry situation. Outside of that, I wouldn't use Kujo Sara. So if you have a lot of copies of her already and you want Kinich or Raiden, maybe you can get her C6, but it's not really worth trying to get her C6 because the other constellations up until that point aren't really that good. Then we got Thoma, who actually pairs fairly well with Kinich and like okay with Raiden, I guess. He's a shield character, but he's really weird and his kit's kind of all over the place because his shield scales with HP. So the higher his max HP is, the stronger his shield is. But his ascension stat is attack. So when you ascend him, he gets attack percent, not HP or energy recharge, which he really needs because he has an 80 cost burst and he doesn't generate that many particles, and you're typically using him off field anyways, so he needs a lot of energy recharge. So yeah, kind of all over the place. I built my Thoma as sort of like a sub Burgeon support. So his shield is not very strong. He doesn't have a lot of HP, but he has a lot of EM and a lot of energy recharge, so he can trigger Burgeon, and that works pretty well. But kind of a harder build to pull off. You need something like a Katane Cross Spear, especially with refinements. That gets you some energy and elemental mastery. And then you need a lot of energy recharge on other stats as well. Overall, these 4 stars are not great. I would not recommend wishing for a lot of these, especially if you're a newer player. If you already have copies of, let's say, Kujo, Sara, and Thoma, they could be potentially a little bit better for you. C4 Thoma is nice because it reduces the cost of his burst from 80 to effectively 65, which does help quite a bit. And then again, C6 Kujo Sara is kind of nice, but really, these are not great banners overall. And then we've got this weapon banner with Fang of the Mountain King and Engulfing Lightning. Both these 5 stars are fairly good. They're okay. Fang of the Mountain King is a nice stat stick. It has very high base attack, 741 at level 90 with 11 crit rate. And then the Engulfing Lightning is a spear that gives you a lot of energy recharge, 55%, and then it also gives you a lot of attack based on your energy recharge. So pretty nice overall for a lot of different characters that want both energy recharge and attack. Obviously this works well for Raiden, works really well for a character like Xiangling, and a lot of other characters too. But these 4 stars, I mean, Stringless is the best, and Stringless is like a fairly solid weapon, but when that's the best weapon on the whole banner, that's kind of an issue. Lion's Roar, that's basically like random 4 star standard wish that you're like, oh, a Lion's Roar, yay. Not really a very good weapon. Eye of Perception, not a very good catalyst. Dragon's Bane, decent for characters that want EM and are always constantly hitting enemies with something like Pyro, so it could work for Hu Tao. Could work for Burge and Thoma. Can work for Xiangling if you have enough energy recharge on her. And even Raiden if you're building her for Hyper Bloom, because it does give you 221 EM at level 90. but it's just kind of like an okay weapon. Even does all right with reverse melt Rosaria, though now with Escoffier, if you have Escoffier, you'd probably want to be playing Rosaria with Escoffier rather than trying to do reverse melt. Although if you don't have Escoffier, then reverse melt Rosaria still is a thing, and Dragon's Bane does work pretty well on her. And then we have Fav Greatsword, which probably would be more useful if it had higher base attack and a little bit lower energy recharge. But because it has high energy recharge and low base attack, it's not as useful on a lot of characters that could use it. So yeah, this is neither one of these banners is very good, honestly. Unless you just really wanted Kinich or Raiden, I honestly would not recommend wishing on these banners and just save your primo gems. Same with the weapon banners, unless you just really like Kinich or Raiden or just really want one of the 5-star weapons, I would not wish on these either. And now we've got the Chronicled Wish banner, which is also coming in the second phase. So we've got Ayaka, Ayato, Yoimiya, Chirori, Miko, Itto, plus more, and then all the signature weapons as well. So yeah, let's see. I want to take a look and make sure that the 4 stars are just the Leeway 4 stars and that they didn't change, or not Leeway, the Inazuma 4 stars, and they didn't change anything. Let's see. As well as, okay, Akumaru, Waybreaker's Fin, Moon's Moon will be available for a limited time. Okay, got it. Let's see. 4-star characters, let's see. We've got all these 4-star characters: Kuki Shinobu, Kirara, Heizo, Kujo, Sara, Goro, Sayu, Thoma. Okay. Oh, so they do have a few of these standard weapons. We got Lion's Roar, Sack Sword, Flute, Fav Sword, Akumaru, Rain Slasher, Sacrificial Greatsword, the Bell, Fav Greatsword, Waybreaker's Fin, Favonius Lance, Dragon's Bane, Eye of Perception, Moon's Moon, Favonius Codex, the Stringless, Favonius Warbow. So basically what they did is the 4-star weapons are all the standard 4-star weapons, and then they added the Akumaru and the Moon's Moon and the Waybreaker's Fin. So not particularly great there. It's basically sort of standard plus a few Inazuma 4-star weapons. However, the 4-star characters are only the Inazuma 4 stars. So we've got Kuki, Kirara, Heizo, Sara, Goro, Sayu, and Thoma. Honestly, it feels like if you really wanted maybe some characters if you really wanted either Thoma or Sara, maybe you could wish on the Raiden banner. But honestly, this banner probably has a little bit better value for you if you did want to wish, because if you lost your 50-50, the characters on this banner are still going to be better than the standard characters if you lose a 50-50 here. And then if you don't have a character like Kazuha, he's a lot more useful in general than someone like Raiden. And even if you were wishing for Raiden, you can still get someone like Kuki Shinobu on this banner, and she can fulfill the Hyper Bloom role. So that kind of takes out one of Raiden's roles already. Honestly, I think overall for this banner, if you want to wish for the characters, it's more or less because you like them, unless you wanted someone like Kazuha, who still is quite useful. He's fallen a little bit off of like the highest tiers of meta, but he's still a very, very useful character overall. The weapons, though, are kind of interesting because a lot of the 5 stars are still pretty useful. Araku is pretty good, Haran is pretty good, Mist Splitter's still really nice, Freedom Sworn's okay. Red Horn can be nice because it gives you a lot of crit damage. 88 crit damage on a Claymore is pretty good. Kagura's Verity can be pretty nice as well because it increases skill damage and gives you that useful crit damage. Everlasting Moonglow, which is Kokomi's weapon, is not good. You definitely don't want to see this if it's like you're wishing. And then Thundering Pulse is also pretty good. At the very least, most of these are stat sticks, so even if you cannot maintain all of the passives all the time for all of them, they're a lot less niche than a lot of the other current 5 stars that are coming out now, where they're very clearly meant for one character, and they work really well with that one character and then no one else. So yeah, if you were going to wish on this just for value in general, if you already had Kazuha, the weapon banner here is not too bad, but keep in mind that it does require more pity than a standard, like a regular weapon banner. So instead of the 65 soft pity and 80 hard pity, this weapon banner is going to have 75 soft pity and 90 hard pity. Going to have the same sort of thing, though. You're going to have the Fate Point and the Epitomized Path, so you will need potentially to go to pity twice to get the weapon you want. But if you lose, the only things you can lose to are other weapons. So let's say you're wishing for Mist Splitter, you could get Red Horn, and that's not too bad. But you could also get Everlasting Moonglow, which would be bad. However, if you were wishing for maybe Uraku for either Chirori, or maybe you wanted some more damage on someone like Farina, and Uraku's pretty nice for her, and then you ended up getting something like Kagra's Verity, also kind of a win. So this is a banner if you feel like you may lose your 50-50. There's a lot less duds on the weapons than there are for the characters, where you could get some character and then maybe you don't have the right characters to pair with them, or they're just not a character you would just use that much. With the 5-star weapons, you could find a lot of uses for these weapons. Again, outside of really the Moonglow, you could definitely find a use for just about anything. It's probably Moonglow is the worst, and then Freedom Sworn is a little bit more niche, but the rest of them are pretty good weapons because everyone here gives you some sort of crit stat. So Uraku is crit damage, Haran is crit rate, Mist Splitter is crit damage, Red Horn is crit damage, Kagra's Verity is crit damage, and then Thundering Pulse is crit damage. They also have the higher base attack, and then passives that a lot of characters can use somewhat, even if they can't utilize everything. So overall, if you were going to wish, probably my recommendation would be on the Chronicle Wish banner, either for someone like Kazuha or just another character you really want here, or for the weapon banner. And again, these banners, not very good. Only go for these if you really like the 5-star, because the 4-stars are not doing much for your account. Same with the weapon banner. So that's what we got in the second half. I wish everyone the best of luck who's wishing. I hope you all win your 50-50s and don't have to lose anything, because that could be painful.